I was born into a family of 4 girls. Sarah and I were the last 2 as identical twins. We were very blessed actually to be brought up in a lovely farmhouse situation. But Sarah and I grew up believing that we were actually a disappointment because we were pretty hopeless at most things. We were tomboys, we'd rather climb trees than read books, and to this day I'm not a great reader. And we were just, I say we were challenged because we were very naughty. We did everything in twos. We didn't speak English we didn't speak properly till we were 3 because we had our own language. And we went into school and we were annoying to the teachers because we were so identical. So we caused a little bit of trouble later on in our school years, and therefore we came out with nothing. Diddly squat, actually. You know, I got a C in music, and that was about it. And so we had, I never had aspirations to go to university, and obviously in those days you could leave school at 16. So I left school and set up a little business called Help at Hand, which you do when you don't know what to do, if you know what I mean. And it wasn't really very much. It taught us a lot over a short space of time. We did all sorts of things. We looked after horses, we cooked for elderly people, we did secretarial work, none of which we were trained in, but we were just trying to create a business. Not long after that, I was given the opportunity to go to Africa because my father and mother were born and brought up in Kenya, and my father was district officer and district commissioner out there. And he's semi-retired, and he took all 4 of his daughters and his wife out there for a trip in 1987. And while I was out there, I met a gentleman who ran a safari company in Botswana in the opposite the seasons were opposite. So when I got back to England, I thought a lot about it, completely terrified at the prospect of what I was about to do. But I flew out to the Kalahari Desert, where I became the driver, the service vehicle driver, and the cook. It was an incredible year. I really grew out there. It moulded me, I think, largely into the person I am today. But while I was out there, I had a dream. And the dream was instigated partly by my faith and also by a Swiss couple on safari that talked about their house in the mountains. And I was very cocky actually, and I remember saying openly to a gentleman out there, give me 5 years and I'll have a place in the mountains. Now, bearing in mind I didn't have a job in the UK and couldn't afford the door of a car, this was quite a big thing to say. However, 2 years later, I did actually acquire a property in the French Alps in a place called Le Clusaz, which is the most stunning ski resort. And it came about due to a journey of its own. And that's a story I can tell another day. But it was quite incredible. And I ended up with this property, which I then set up the following year to run disabled holidays for disabled children. And that ran for many years. It was called SADA, which stood for Sophia's Alpine Disabled Adventures. And Sophia was the name of the chalet. And that again has a story of its own in terms of how it got that name. But that was really the beginning of my property journey. I was 22 at the time, 22 years old. By the time I actually bought the chalet, I did have a job in the UK. I was gutting fish in a fish farm. So earning very small amounts of money. But the point was, at that young age, my attitude was, I'm going to do this. The question is how. And how I acquired that property was what is taught today, actually. One of the strategies taught today, whereby I had no money and I did it with no money. And so that was the beginning of my journey.